You think you need more ambition, more freedom, more strength, more success. You chase it like it will save you, like one more step, one more win, one more extreme will finally bring peace. But Aristotle warned you, not with fire, not with thunder, but with reason, with a simple law etched into the bones of reality, the golden mean, the truth that all virtue lives in balance, and that anything, no matter how noble, becomes destructive when taken too far. Courage, if stretched too far, becomes recklessness. Love, if poured too recklessly, becomes obsession. Even discipline, when distorted, becomes rigidity. In all things, the path of virtue lies between two vices, excess and deficiency. One too much, the other too little. And your task is to walk the razor's edge between them. But that's not what the world teaches you. The world glorifies extremes. It tells you that more is always better, that intensity equals value, that if you're not all in, you're wasting time. So you burn the candle at both ends. You push harder, you love harder, you fight harder, until you collapse, until you snap, until you realize that obsession is not clarity. That passion without direction is self-destruction. That speed without wisdom is blindness. Aristotle knew this. He saw it not just in politics or ethics, but in the human soul, in the quiet war between your instincts and your reason. He believed that happiness, eudaimonia, was not found in indulgence, nor in self-denial. It was found in harmony, in excellence, in mastering the art of balance in every aspect of life. But balance is not mediocrity. It is not playing it safe. It is not watering yourself down to fit in. Balance, for Aristotle, was strength under control, power aligned with purpose, the sword held steady, not because you're weak, but because you've mastered when to strike and when to sheath. The golden mean is not softness, it is precision, and it demands more of you than extremism ever will. Anyone can rage, anyone can run, but to stand still and act with perfect proportion, that takes wisdom, that takes character, that takes practice. You see, Aristotle did not believe virtue was something you were born with. He believed it was something you became through repetition, through discipline, through conscious choice. Just as you train the body to lift heavier weight, you train the soul to carry virtue. And the measure of your virtue is not how intensely you act, but how well you balance between too much and too little. Think of bravery. Too little, and you're a coward. Too much, and you're reckless. But the mean, that rare, steady center, is courage. The ability to face fear with reason, to act not from impulse, but from clarity. Look at your own life. How many times have you failed, not because you lacked strength, but because you used too much? You spoke too much when silence was needed. You gave too much when boundaries were required. You waited too long when action was demanded. That is the cost of imbalance. That is the hidden destruction of extremes. They don't just burn you out. They blind you to truth. They distort your judgment. They convince you that intensity is virtue when in fact, it is often vice in disguise. Aristotle was not idealistic. He was practical. He didn't give you abstract commandments. He gave you a compass. And that compass points not to perfection, but to proportion. Are you acting in proportion to the moment? Are you giving in proportion to what you have? Are you fighting the right battles, in the right way, for the right reasons? That is the path of virtue. That is the golden mean. But most never walk it. Because it's hard. Because it requires constant awareness. because it asks you to resist both your wildness and your withdrawal. It asks you to live with restraint and still burn with purpose. Take justice. If you give everyone exactly what they deserve without mercy, you become cruel. But if you excuse everything in the name of kindness, you become a coward. The mean is justice tempered by wisdom, firm but fair, unshakable but not merciless. Or take generosity. Too little and you are selfish. Too much and you become a martyr. The mean is given in a way that uplifts without losing yourself. And the same is true for ambition, for love, for speech, for discipline. Every virtue walks between two cliffs. One of chaos, one of emptiness, and your soul is the bridge. Aristotle understood that virtue is not found in withdrawal from life, but in full engagement with it, properly ordered. The extreme man burns bright and dies fast. The virtuous man burns steady and endures. He is not controlled by passion. He uses it as fuel. He does not run from pain. He places it in its rightful context. He does not worship pleasure. He respects its place. The golden mean is not the easy path. It is the heroic path, because it means constantly correcting, constantly aligning, constantly becoming. And in that process, you don't just build character. You build clarity. You build sovereignty. You build peace. And yet, in your world, this wisdom is lost, replaced by noise. Extremism sells. Outrage sells. Pleasure sells. So you are trained to believe that balance is weakness, that moderation is compromise, that if you're not drowning in hustle, you're lazy, that if you're not giving all of yourself to someone, you're selfish, that if you're not passionate to the point of collapse, you don't care enough. And so you swing from one side to the other, starving or gorging, working or quitting, silent or explosive. You lose your center, and with it, you lose yourself. But what if the answer was not more? What if the answer was better? Not louder, but clearer. Not faster, but wiser. What if the strongest man is not the one who feels the most, but the one who governs what he feels? What if discipline is not cold restraint, but the sacred art of giving everything its proper place? That is the golden mean. That is what you were never taught, because it cannot be sold. It must be earned, cultivated, chosen. Aristotle did not offer this truth as a restriction. He offered it as a liberation from chaos, from confusion, from suffering caused by your own unexamined extremes. He believed that man becomes truly human, not when he acts without limit, but when he acts in harmony with reason, with virtue, with the rhythm of reality itself. Because reality has order. The universe does not reward extremes, it corrects them. Too much heat destroys, too much cold kills. Life exists where the fire burns just right. So does virtue. But how do you find that flame? How do you locate the mean in a world that pushes you to edges? You observe, you reflect, you practice, you fall, and then you realign. You learn to feel the imbalance before it wrecks you. You develop the inner eye that sees, this is too much, this is too little. This is where I stand. And you stand there, not with pride, but with purpose. Because standing in the mean does not mean standing still. It means standing right. Even when it's unpopular. Even when it's misunderstood. Even when it hurts. And slowly, over time, you begin to embody virtue. Not as a performance, but as a rhythm, a way of being. You become courageous without being reckless, wise without being arrogant, kind without being naive, powerful without being oppressive. And in that state, you do not swing. You do not collapse. You endure. You carry your fire without burning the world around you. This is the art of character. This is what Aristotle meant by excellence, not perfection, but the full maturity of the soul. The ability to act, not react, to hold, not hoard, to speak, not shout, to lead, not dominate, to feel, not drown, and to live, not just exist. That is what balance gives you. That is what extremes will never offer, because extremes enslave. They possess you. They promise identity, but deliver chaos. Balance frees you. It returns your power to you, quietly, steadily, in every small act done with wisdom. So when you feel yourself pulled, pause. When the urge rises to overdo, to overgive, to overprove, pause. Ask yourself, is this action in proportion? Is it rooted in virtue or in compulsion, in clarity or in fear? And listen. The answer is there, in the stillness, in the center, in the mean. Walk that path, not once, but daily. Train yourself in it, because balance is not found. It is forged through effort, through self-awareness, through refusal to be ruled by extremes disguised as passion. And when you live this way, something happens. You become dependable. Not in a boring way, but in a powerful one. People trust your presence. Your mind becomes sharp. Your emotions become deep, but not drowning. Your decisions become clean. Your energy becomes sustainable. And your character becomes the kind of force the world rarely sees. Stable, sovereign, virtuous. Aristotle gave you a map. Not to fame, not to indulgence, but to happiness, real happiness. The kind that doesn't collapse when things go wrong. The kind that isn't a spike of dopamine, but a steady light. And that light comes from the mean, from living rightly, from walking the middle path, not as a compromise, but as a form of mastery. That is the way of virtue. That is the art of the golden mean. And that, whether you realize it or not, is the life your soul has been craving all along.